Welcome back to Tech Tuesday. I'm your host, Jordan Evans, and today we're talking about Teeniors. So, what's a Teenior? Well, we're going to tell you all about it. Teenior began as a business founded by Trish Lopez in 2015. So, now, just over 8 years later, it's become an organization that has tutored thousands of older adults in the latest tech, from phones to laptops to even getting on Foresight's web streaming platform. They handle it all. This episode will be jam packed with some really fun conversations and even a conversation about something near and dear to my heart, which is ageism. So today we have on Kathy Ferguson, Elle Serna, who is one of the Teeniors, and Kathy is one of the people that Teeniors serves. And then we'll wrap it all up with talking with Trish Lopez, who founded this wonderful organization. But first, let's bring on Elle.
Hi, how are you?
Ellie, how are you?
Doing well today.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on to Tech Tuesday. And let's
Thank
just,
you.
I am so excited to talk to a Teenior. I've been following this organization for a while. And so, what made you become a Teenior?
So I had just gotten out of school and it was during COVID and the whole pandemic. So I was a COVID graduate and I was looking for a job and I had just been volunteering a lot. So I volunteered at different local farms and different companies. And through the city of Albuquerque, they had a post about senior activities, and Teeniors was on there. And I was like, oh, they like hire teens, and I don't have to work at like a fast food job. And so I applied and I talked to Trish, and it was just something that sounded so fulfilling and so great, and something that I had never really done before. But I was very comfortable with technology. And when I was in high school, I our whole school got MacBooks and
Hmm.
nobody knew how to use them. They just gave them to us. And so when I was in high school, I got to help everyone learn how to use the MacBook. So I already had that kind of experience doing like teaching tech. So Trish was able to get me to help some seniors at their homes and at the senior centers. And so it was a really great experience.
Had you ever worked with older adults before?
No, I hadn't.
Yeah, and so this is obviously a new thing, working with
Mhm.
older adults in different settings. Um, what what did you learn?
I learned that there's such a divide between young people and old people that you don't really think about because they don't really have the voice to talk about it. And
Hmm.
so it's always like, oh, you just talk to your grandma, you talk to your grandpa, but you don't really, there's no spaces for you to interact with older people when you're a teenager.
Hmm. And how did you how did that how did you then take that to your personal life? So all these experiences, I assume you then like were talking to your friends and your family about it. What were those conversations like?
So I'm the youngest in my family by a lot. So I think me and the youngest family member in my family have a 20-year age gap.
Oh wow.
And so it was kind of like, what do you mean? You guys have never told me about this. And so I was telling my friends, like, do you guys interact with like older people on a regular basis? Like, do you go hang out with your grandparents? Do you hang out with their friends? Do you like go play bingo with them? Because I never had that experience.
Hmm. And what were their responses?
A lot of them didn't. They didn't really go see their older family members. They're just like, oh, I don't reach out to them first, was what I heard a lot.
Hmm. Hmm. That's really hard, especially to live in community settings where
Hmm.
it can be lonely. You just want to hear
Hmm.
someone reach out. And then here's Ellie coming to talk to you. So, how many new friends do you have these intergenerational relationships you built?
Oh, a lot. One of my favorite people that I met through teen years is this woman, Cheryl, who lives on Isleta Pueblo. So I'm from Las Lunas, and so when I moved to Albuquerque, I lived with my sister, and so we would drive through Isleta, go back to Las Lunas, drive back to Albuquerque, and she was just so. I met her at a senior center during one of the events, and she was just so excited that somebody knew where Isleta was, and she's like, "Can you come to my house to do a home session?" And she was so worried because she thought I wouldn't be able to find it. And I'm like, I know exactly where it is.
That's so great. I love that. So, so when you've had some personal time teaching tech to your peers, as you talked about in high school, um, did you find it different? I mean, there are of course challenges, but how did you take to it? And did you kind of, what's the best way? If you were to give me some tips, what's the best way that I can go and work with older adults and help them with something that's a little bit newer to them?
Be patient. I think when we teach people about anything, but technology especially, like if you think about trying to teach your parents something, like, hey, son, can you come show me how to open Facebook on my computer? And you're like, oh, just let me do it for you. And then you grab the mouse and you open it for them, and you're like, look, it's so easy. Why can't you just do it? But it's easy for you, but for them, it's like something that's completely new. So just being patient while they learn everything, because there's a lot, and being like, oh, well, first you open the browser and then you type in Facebook and then you type in your username, which is your email. And there's just a lot of steps that go into the simplest thing that we do.
So, the last thing, Ellie, and I thank you so much for coming on. What are the responses you get after someone's really honed the skill and you help them do that?
Everyone's just been so grateful and so thankful. And I think it is just being able to make that connection between the teenior and then the senior that you're helping, and then the connection that they make between themselves and their devices, because it is something that can feel so separate to yourself. And so when they finally catch on and they feel like it's something that they can use in their daily life, I think it just opens a whole new path for them.
Wow, that's really meaningful work. I'm sure you love what you do. I thank you
I do.
so much. Thank you so much for coming on. Now, I don't know if we're at the point where Kathy has joined. Um, we have some little love doing this show live because you never know what could happen. So don't know. So I think Kathy is not in and not going to be able to join us. But Ellie, I want to thank you so much for your time, and I think we're going to bring on Trish.
Thank you.
Hi guys. Hi Jordan.
More time than we allotted for, so I'm super excited about where our conversations can go.
Me too.
So let's just start with, where do you get an idea like this from? Like, where did you start? This is such a different thing. It's meaningful, it's important, but where did you start?
That's a great question, Jordan. And you could probably, if you think about it, assume, or maybe not, this idea was inspired by my own mom. So my mom, Lillian, is 85. And dad died when we were really young. And even though she has 5 of us kids, adult children, we would like kind of take turns helping her when she she'd forget a password. She would create a whole new account if she forgot her password because she didn't know how to recover it. She would lose a document, all these things. And we really struggled with, I can't get across town, like I've got a baby now, like different reasons. Mom needed help and we couldn't always be there to help her. And frankly, when we were there, I don't know that we were the best helpers. I don't tend to think that your immediate family members are the best tutors for you, whether it's like learning snowboarding, whether it's learning technology, no matter what it is, it just feels like a degree of separation can be helpful. Anyway, I was had just had my little girl. I'd been working in the film industry, the entertainment industry for a long time, and really wanted to do something that was more meaningful. So I went to a women's entrepreneurial event here in Albuquerque, where I'm based, and pitched the idea that became Teeniors. Worked on the idea with a fabulous team of volunteers that weekend. We ended up winning this competition, and then I was invited to apply for a business accelerator. Where they put $20,000 investment into the idea. And I was just like, God, this is so random because I don't know how to create a business. I don't know how to create a nonprofit. and I don't know anything about working with teens and seniors other than I want to see this exist in our world, because I was starting to see ageism more and more and more as my mom's hair was graying, as I would go with her to stores and see how she was treated. Like, older people in our society are really just kind of made more invisible as they age. And so it's one of the things I talk to our coaches about, our Teeniors, when they get interviewed, when they're oriented. And like you, Jordan, I'm a big advocate against ageism in our society and making people aware of ageism, because it really is the last acceptable prejudice. So now Teeniors has been in existence for over 8 years. We have a really fantastic team. We're based in Albuquerque, but we have pilot programs going on in other places in New Mexico. And especially during COVID, we were helping people online through all over the country.
And it's so important, bring up amplifying those voices and making sure they're heard. So Kathy just joined. And so, Trish, I will bring you back up. I want to put a pin in that because there's so much more I want to talk about, just ageism and this digital inequity that we have. But before we do that, let's bring Kathy on.
Hello. Thank you. I apologize.
Oh, we're happy to
Can
have
you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Thank you so much for joining us. There will be a little bit of a lag, but that's okay as long as you can hear
Absolutely.
me. There will be a little.
I can
There
hear
we
you.
go. Great. So
Can you hear me?
I just want to ask you, first off, how long have you been working with Teeniors?
Oh, I love working with Teeniors. I've worked with Teeniors since the beginning. They're just, Trish is great.
Oh, it looks like we lost Kathy. Darn. Well, while we try and get Kathy back, let's bring Trish back on. Never a dull moment in a live.
I know.
Here we are
broadcasts
doing
are so
this
fun.
live. Yes, it is. So, institutional, structural ageism is there. And it's so, even in that moment with Kathy, so often it's not even out of discrimination that we exclude or talk around older adults, but just out of, and Elle just put it perfectly, it's out of a lack of patience, a lack of just like seeing them as a human and giving them a space. And so often people just, with Kathy, like I could see someone going, all right, well, that's it. And then just not even giving space for someone to, yeah.
Absolutely, Jordan. And you and I talked about this a little bit, that people with disabilities are the most discriminated against in our society, whether it's having that patience to help them, it's sometimes even get into a building, certainly with technology, but also they're by far the most discriminated against when it comes to getting jobs. And so there's so many things we could say about that, but you're right. Like in our society, it's very like strive, move faster, grow. And it doesn't instill those kinds of values in us when we're young. I really think we have to find them when we're older.
So when speaking of older and younger, when you were doing this, you're acting almost as this bridge. And so you have to, everyone thinks, oh, we got to train the young people to talk to older adults. But we also have to train older people to not have their own predisposed, the stereotypes and discriminatory thoughts that when entering these intergenerational relationships. What was that like on either side?
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. I always say ageism works both ways. It's not just because young people, beautiful people by our society's standards, are most valued in our society. The younger people are often in that position of privilege where they don't realize that ageism is the thing. Like I've had many people tell me like, ageism, what's ageism? What are you talking about? And like even my friends who are my age, because they're just not around older people to see that discrimination. And so I say it in reverse too. Older people can have, all of us, you know, we're all ageist on some level because this is our society that we live in, it's a culture. And we do it even with little kids. Like when I had my daughter, who's now 11, I remember being like, you know, at a playground or whatever, some 5-year-old falls and skins their knee. And the parents or the uncles or the aunts or whatever are like, you're fine, stop crying. And I always thought that was so weird because I'm like, he's not fine. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to him in his life. He just skinned his knee. That's painful for me when I'm playing volleyball, like, and I'm a grown woman. So I always find it weird that we're like, what do you know about blank? You're this age. So you're right. With older adults, there can be, I will say, I have seen over the 8 years, we've helped thousands and thousands in a one-on-one setting, even thousands more in class settings. It's an easier communication than you think. All the kids, the younger people have to be told is remember to be patient. Don't assume things. Like don't assume, okay, you want to use Zoom from your phone? Okay, go download the Zoom app. They're gonna be like, what do you mean? What's download? What is that? And what is an app? If I'm coming with my full honesty, what is an app? Like, what is this thing? So it depends on the level you're at. And what I love about older adults, if I may use some salty language, they've lost the ability to bullshit. Like they want to just say what they mean. They want you to say what you mean and mean what you say. And so they don't take it personally usually, in my experience. When you say, how comfortable are you with your phone? You know, do you know how to download apps? Do you know what apps are? Do you know how to use the settings? Something that I think younger people think, I can't say that. They're going to think that's condescending. But I don't find older adults to feel that way. So they will, like in the past, have said things like, oh my God, it's so relieving to see that not every kid wants to be a Kardashian. And younger people will be like, yeah, this has killed my stereotypes about older people. Like they're so nice. Like they're so nice. They just are so appreciative for our help. And the younger people, the Teeniors, feel that right away because they walk into the room, like say we're at a senior center, 6 different Teeniors, and they're going to be paired up with a different older adult each hour. Like I remember in the beginning, they would say things like this is so much more meaningful than any other job I've had, if they've even had a job before. She's so grateful. Like I could just sit here all day and answer her questions because like she appreciates it. He appreciates it. Anyway, so sorry, I've been taking a long time to get to answering your question. The communication is actually easier when you say, hey guys, I just need you to remember like step by step. Don't assume they know anything. Feel free to ask them, how long have you had your device? Because you'll be surprised. Some people will say, I've had this laptop sitting in my office or my closet for 4 years since my daughter gave it to me. Now that I learned about Teeniors, I'm bringing it out. Like there's a serious intimidation. There's a serious shame from our society about them not knowing technology. So they will not bring out that vulnerability unless they know it's a safe environment. And I think that's why Teeniors has been so successful and continues to be, because our team understands that. And there's no shame on our part. We're like, we got nowhere else to be. You can ask the same question 17 times. And if you don't get it, that's our fault. Like, let us think of how we can re-explain this.
Yeah, it's so funny. Just as a last note on that, I think that there's a shame also among younger people. I mean, I know when I get a new device that I have to spend time to learn, like, because not everything is as user friendly. I've never bought a Mac, and I probably never will, just because I don't know anyone who can sit with me and explain to me where all the things are. And so I'm just going to keep buying PCs because this is where I'm comfortable. And computers don't come with a thick book that you can flip through and learn all the things. And so there's an expectation that everyone just knows. And it's hard
Absolutely.
to a person. I mean, I think that your program is great for anyone. I would love to have a Teenior come help me with some things, because even with Facebook, I can't call someone if I have an issue with something.
Absolutely, Jordan. And by the way, I'm the first to say I need a Teenior. Like, even if you can do it yourself, quite frankly, like I can Google how to wipe a computer. But I remember I got a donation of some laptops for a while back, but they hadn't wiped them. So I'm like, Alex, I call one of our best Teeniors who's on the robotics team. I'm like, can you come wipe these computers? I'll pay you your rate. I'll even pay you a tip. I don't have time to do this. But even if I did have time, do I want to go through, like, I guess I'm saying, even when we are capable, yeah, we're like, I'm doing something else, or I'm comfortable with this. I have to learn something new for something that I'm only going to do one time in my life. I wanted Teenior for a number of reasons. So I'm with you, Jordan. Like when COVID hit, we were helping 40-year-old professors learn how to teach their classes over Zoom. So it's kind of funny because, Teeniors, tech savvy teens helping seniors is like the tagline, and that Teeniors our logo. But I've learned over the years, like, it's anyone helping anyone. And there is no shame on our part. Like, every time we do an event, somebody will be like, I know I should know this. I know I'm stupid. I know I might be too young to be meeting you guys, but I might be too old to be, like, you can feel all the hardship that it takes the people to come forward. And I'm like, we help people of all ages. And by the way, Jordan, we hire people of all ages, because my 12-year-old niece wanted to be a Teenior. And I was like, listen, I don't know if you can relate to someone who's like, this is a foreign object. What are all those things, on this smartphone? But
yeah.
she did
Isn't that an ageist assumption?
Yeah,
Isn't
absolutely.
that an ageist assumption?
Absolutely, it's an ageist assumption. And so she did need that training. I would say that I do think that there is a reason for the orientation. Like it is an assumption on all of our parts, if you grew up with technology, that everyone knows what a smartphone is. So we could talk about assumptions for a long time, but some assumptions you do need to make, because I haven't met a Teenior who's like, oh, I didn't know they don't know what the home button is. Oh, I didn't know that they might not know what those 3 lines in the corner, that equals their menu. Like, I haven't met a Teenior yet who hasn't been surprised to learn that. So I think there are some things we can assume, but it doesn't matter. We can, by all means, correct us if we're wrong. Like, I think it's just, we don't want to assume that you know more than you do. And so anyway, we've had 12-year-olds that have worked out brilliantly. We have a 35-year-old he worked with us in between jobs, as he's a full-time IT person. But when he was between jobs, he's like, I'd like to work for Teeniors. And now he still works I think he's like 38 now. He still works with us on the weekends when he gets out of work. He's at the public school system. We're doing full-time IT networking stuff. But he likes the work so much and finds it so meaningful that he stays.
I am excited to see how this future comes, when we'll soon have people who have spent maybe not all of their life, but still maybe 15, 20 years in a heavy robotic tech space, that having a certain level of literacy, of digital and tech literacy, that can come on and start even helping peers at a certain point. I'm excited to see a 60-year-old or an 80-year-old Teenior. That is a future that I love to see. But let's bring Kathy on. Let's keep Trish on. Let's just let the 3 of us chat. Kathy, I think we're doing better now.
Yes, I don't know what's going on.
Well, we're happy to have you.
It's crazy. I'm happy to be here, and I don't know. It's been a crazy day.
Well, I'll let you just get some thoughts on our conversation so far, if you have anything to add.
Well, there's always struggles, and it's not just, us older folks, but Teeniors is such a dynamic need. Every Teenior is incredibly helpful. Like Trish was saying, when, we have trouble understanding what we're being taught, they always will find another way, and they're so patient and kind and help us to learn this. And we learn, by the time our session is over, we have learned a great deal. And there's so much technology that pops up every single day, but our needs are met.
I think these are valuable skills
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Teeniors is not, it's great to have anyone be able to be taught tech, but the skills of working in a multi-generational workplace or multi-generational world, that's skills you can take anywhere. Please tell me more about the friendships you've developed working with Teeniors over the past years.
Well, I have my favorite. You ask. um, but I've enjoyed all of them because I learned so much from every one of them, and I and they're always funny because they're like, "Oh, you taught me something too." So it's like, "Oh," and I work the medical side of stuff, but it's just a great need, and they're great to work with. They're just you're always answered, you're always helped, clarity is always given, always. It's
How have
dynamic.
you felt that working with teens has changed your assumptions around younger people?
Wow. We live outside our homes, our daily lives, but to see the kindness, the respect, you can learn this. It's not, you're all good. It's all good. You're going to learn what you came in here to learn. And just gentleness. Oh, well, let me show you. Maybe this another way will be easier to help you understand. Your help with your Apple phone or your iPad or whatever.
Yeah.
Trish, I'm sure you never. Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. Needs are always met with just such respect and gentleness, patience.
Trish, I'm sure you never get to ask questions. I don't know how often you get to ask questions to your older clients. So please, if you have a question, I'd love to.
Gosh, I think what I was thinking just now, Jordan, when you were speaking is, first of all, Kathy is awesome because she kind of she lives what she believes, which is we can all always learn more. I think she's worked with every single one of our Teeniors at this point.
Yes.
And, as
Yes.
kids graduate high school and move out of state for college, we bring on a new team member, and she's worked with so many of them. I guess I would say, Kathy, do you think that other older adults in your community, whether it's people or not, just kind of generalizing, do you think that they feel comfortable with that technology, that they would feel comfortable with a younger person helping them out in this way? Or do you think what I was saying, which I believe there's a lot of shame among older adults, and they don't feel like, I want to put myself out there and be vulnerable and have a kid helping me with this, and what if they make me feel stupid? What if they think I'm dumb? Do you see any of that? Or do I just see that because I've worked with so many different people?
I my friends and acquaintances, they want to learn. They want to be educated. They love technology. And we see both sides. But I refer Teeniors, and people are like, wow, I didn't feel stupid.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I know, and then you go to the grocery store or something, and you're like, what do you ask? What do you want that for, or whatever? Why are you asking me that, or something? And just the other day, I was in the grocery store, and I was in the produce, and I was trying to go around the corner, and I accidentally hit the employee's foot, and he wouldn't move out of the way or anything, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he was so rude to me. He was yelling at me. Did you have to do that? And I said, I apologize. And he said, I'm asking you, did you have to do that? And that was in the grocery store. And I said, if you could have moved out of my way a little bit. And he said, no, I don't do that for you. And I just, it was
so by that, Kathy, would you say you see the ageism that Jordan and I mentioned earlier? I don't know if you heard us earlier.
Yes, yeah. I do, because it's like, oh, she's old,
Yeah, I certainly see it as a person.
It's a huge thing. Ageism is a huge. There's no respect. Where's the kindness? Where's the gentleness?
And to be clear, we know there are humans that are unkind in general. Might have been just as unkind.
And I am too. I can be, yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I definitely have seen it in the last 8 plus, almost 9 years now of running Teeniors. I was wondering, well, let Jordan go on. I'm
Well, no.
so glad that you've learned so much through our work, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy, so much for joining us. I'm gonna bring you off, and we're gonna just finish up and wrap up our conversations. One last thing, Trish, I want to talk to you about is senior living. So this is a senior living web live stream, and so I'd imagine working in a senior living setting. I guess if you go to an affordable housing or a upscale, CCRC life plan community, there's a different levels of literacy. There's different levels. There's some people who really know, and there's some people. And how do you navigate that to make the people that really know still feel like they're getting what they came for, but then the people that don't, if I sit next to someone who, throws out they got an SAT score of this, and and they did all these things, I'm like, I'm not gonna raise my hand. I'm gonna just get quiet. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Jordan. And like you and I were talking about assumptions. There are assumptions that are made, and that I've rarely been. It's more like questions, actually. But for example, in the more well-to-do areas, in the more affluent senior living communities, there is no question, I've never seen it not be true, that their members, their residents, almost always have a much higher level of tech literacy than someone in the lower income communities that we work with, because we work across the spectrum. Nobody gets turned away if they can't afford to pay. And that's why we have the small business and the nonprofit arm. But I think it's like most things in life, as you and I know, as most of us know, if you have money, it's not just about having wealth, it's about having options. You now have access to training. You are savvy enough to ask the others or people who might run the senior center, hey, are there free classes? I really want to learn how to use this particular social media, or I want to learn how to set up my own printer. Like, what can you help me with that? Like, just being more resourceful and knowing there are resources out there is you're really lucky if you know that. I remember going to one senior living community, and it's by far the lowest income, and you could see that of any that I had ever visited. And we were working there for free every month because I didn't care. They couldn't afford to pay, and I could see how many people needed help. Almost everyone was physically disabled on at least one level. Most people were paying about $300 a month to live there and were struggling to afford that. And when I said, the city senior centers have free classes and like $5 classes that you guys can check out, they're like, the senior centers, they didn't even know there were community senior centers. We have 8 in Albuquerque. They didn't even know we had them. They didn't know anything about the free classes. They didn't know anything about anything. Whereas in the more affluent senior living communities, now we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars a month to live there, plus hundreds of thousands to buy in and start living there. They had us coming to their senior living community. They were paying for it. They had a whole IT department. They had home visits. If something went wrong with their computer, they had someone who could do home visits to figure out why the printer wasn't working. And then again, they were very resourceful as well. They had come from professional careers themselves and were now retired. They often had kids who had money. There was more access, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And so that's why I think it's so important for any of us running organizations, even if they're for-profit companies, there should always be a path for people who can't afford to pay, always. It's why I tend to not be a fan of our capitalist system. And I feel pretty strongly about that. So big difference, Jordan, in the senior living communities. And there's a huge spectrum between where you and I can live as we age ourselves. And the people with money have the most good fortune.
And there's digital inequity. I mean, there's people who live in more urban environments that their local senior center, where it is $5 to learn or it's free classes, it's right down the road, and I can take public transportation to get there. Whereas if you live in a rural area and you are aging, in a smaller community that doesn't have as many resources, even it can be hard to gain that digital literacy that can make that big difference, especially in navigating government subsidies and government resources, and even just the website.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought it to that broader scope, Jordan, because I'm on the digital equity task force for the state of New Mexico, to working to bring broadband to rural communities. And absolutely, to everything you said. I mean, dial-up is still being used in some places. There's absolutely zero access in other places. We have 22, 23 tribes and pueblos in New Mexico, some of which have no access. So there's a lot to be said about that as well. And we saw some of it because during COVID, I think many people didn't realize how many students and how many seniors, older adults, did not have access to any kind of internet, much less, even if they have it, do they have a device? And if they have a device, do they know how to use it? So there's all these steps to digital equity. So yeah, I appreciate that question.
I really appreciate the work that you're doing. I'm glad I finally got the chance to meet you. I've been following you for some time and just love your work. If you want to find out more about Teeniors, and Teeniors is expanding, looking at coming into different states and even just growing out throughout the state of New Mexico. If you're looking to continue to grow, we can go to teeniors.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what if we want to
Absolutely.
have a Teenior near us? When is Teenior coming to Maryland?
That's a great question. I don't know yet, but I will definitely let you know. You'll be the first to know because I'm such a fan of your work as well. You'll be the first to know as soon as we're there. And in the meantime, if there's anyone who can be helped online, like FaceTime or Zoom, we'd be happy to help someone in Maryland and anywhere else.
Awesome. Well, Teeniors.com, Trish Lopez, it's just an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. And you've watched another episode of Tech Tuesday, and we're here every Tuesday, 1:30 Eastern Time, on every Tuesday. Thanks so much. See ya.